On August 1st, 2012, Hawkeye #1 landed on store shelves. Written by Matt Fraction and illustrated by David Aja, the creative team behind Marvel's critically acclaimed series The Immortal Iron Fist, the issue was met with a tremendous amount of praise and was the first in a series of incredibly high-quality productions. The series follows non-superpowered hero Clint Barton, aka Hawkeye, as he attempts to bring peace to his gritty Manhattan neighborhood. While often new titles carry the attitude of past series, Fraction Aja's Hawkeye is different. Packed with quirky humor, high-octane action, and emotional character moments, the series has a largely original tone, and its treatment of its titular hero is no different. Unlike many modern superhero comics, Hawkeye focuses on the flaws of its hero.
So the series premiered shortly after the Avengers film was released in theaters, and a lot of people after they saw that movie were criticizing the character Hawkeye, saying that, he's kind of a loser. What does he do if he runs out of arrows? He can't really do anything. And the cool thing about this series is that Fraction says, yeah, he kind of is a loser. If he runs out of arrows, he can't really do anything. So the series builds off that idea and shows him as this really imperfect character. So you always see Clint running around with bandages all over his body. He's terrible with women. He's not very well spoken at all. It's just a very unglamorous look at the profession of superheroing. But despite these flaws, he's still a relatable character because he always does try to do his best.
The series' artwork builds off this idea. While several artists have taken on illustrating duties during the series' lifetime, David Aja is most commonly associated with Hawkeye. Just as Fraction's writing takes readers to a unique and gritty superhero universe, Aja immerses readers in a more grounded, realistic Manhattan. Compared to the artwork of many other contemporary comic books, Aja's artwork is rather basic. It is plain and unadorned. Aja doesn't concern himself with sophisticated details, but focuses instead on telling a story rather than emulating real life. The coloring work of Matt Hollingsworth is a perfect complement to this basic artistic structure. Hollingsworth makes use of a muted color palette, perfectly underscoring the normalcy and unglamorous nature of Clint Barton's story. Clint, however, is not the only hero involved in the series. Clint is joined by a 21-year-old woman named Kate Bishop, who once assumed the role of Hawkeye in a pre-Fraction storyline.
Kate Bishop is more your typical action-oriented, badass superhero character. She is kind of a foil to Clint's just make it up as you go approach to superheroing. She's much more organized, thoughtful. She's really more effective as a superhero too. And Clint will always get himself into messes because he is so relaxed to superheroing, and a lot of times Kate has to come along and clean up the mess he made.
Kate is also different from a large majority of female characters in contemporary comic books. Unlike the gravity-defying outfits often placed on female superheroes, Kate is usually seen in her signature purple jumpsuit, a big improvement from the character's past costumes. Kate isn't just a romantic interest for Clint, nor is she just a supporting character either. Oftentimes, Fraction writes what fans have begun calling Kate-centric issues, that is, issues that only feature Kate Bishop. Indeed, Kate Bishop is just as much Hawkeye as Clint Barton is. The relationship between these two characters is a common source of humor throughout the series.
One of my favorite parts of reading this series is going online after I've read an issue and reading all the comments on the different reviews. And you see that there's all these sort of different inside jokes that fans of the series know, like bro and boomerang. It doesn't really make sense to people who haven't read the series, but after reading the series, you get that there's a lot of humor behind those sort of things. And so it's kind of like an inside joke sort of thing going on, and it shows that there's really a community built around this series, and that the humor of the series really unifies the fan base in a really cool way.
While Hawkeye is known for its generally high-quality issues, a few storylines do stand out above the rest. Hawkeye #11, commonly referred to as the Pizza Dog issue, is one of these standouts. Told from the perspective of Clint's dog Lucky, the issue deconstructs the comic book as a storytelling medium. As Rachel Edidin writes for ComicsAlliance.com, the issue isn't just a visual narrative, but rather is a visual dog narrative. The layout and dialogue are completely different from any other comic book, and perfectly reflect the fact that its narrator is a dog. For example, Lucky can only understand a certain few words of the human language, such as don't and pizza.
So one of my favorite things about the pizza dog issue is that in the previous issue, Hawkeye number 10, a really big character actually dies. And most comics would have the main character go on some sort of rampage for justice and kill the person who killed their friend, but Fraction and Aja go in a totally different direction. Instead, they tell a story from the dog's perspective.
Another standout issue for the series is Hawkeye number 7. Released just 3 months after Superstorm Sandy made landfall in New York, the issue shows Clint attempting to help his neighbor and elderly father escape the city before the storm surge hits. The issue highlights the devastation wrought upon the East Coast by Superstorm Sandy, while also touching on more personal issues, such as the sad moment when a child must become the guardian to an elderly parent. It's a very un-superhero-like issue, but an incredibly effective piece of storytelling. Other noteworthy storylines include The Tape, a 2-part story that takes many cues from old-school super spy films, such as the earliest James Bond flicks, as well as Hawkeye number 19, which is told from the perspective of a recently deaf Clint. Hawkeye is a terrific series for those inexperienced with the world of comic books, as well as for those more seasoned readers. Because it exists in large part outside of other Marvel titles, an extensive knowledge of the Marvel mythos is not needed to appreciate the series. Unfortunately, Marvel has announced the series will be coming to an end this November with the supersized issue number 22. For those looking to get caught up on the series before the finale, 2 trade paperbacks are available in stores now, with a 3rd being released this October.
I mean, it's really just a fantastic series. It's funny, it's emotional, it's action-packed, it's got terrific artwork. I mean, Hawkeye is really just everything comic books are supposed to be.